the most problematic projects that we've had have been the ones where, organizations have not been able to focus on the core thing at hand.
Mm-hmm.
They keep deviating, right? It's like every time you uncover something new, it's like they branch off into 12 different directions. And that's part of the challenge of our role. Like, sure, we're doing the execution, we're doing the research, but largely it's about like walking people back from a
I,
ledge.
I
So
was going to
sometimes,
say that, like, I think, and maybe this is just us as like uh, sort of novice entrepreneurs, but I think that the other core part of the design process, or what should be core, is this ability to kind of like pivot and be agile. And I think we do that really well. And I'm not sure if it's like, now I'm putting on my business hat. I'm not sure if it's good for the business to be that agile, because versus like being more structured in how you allow people to kind of like flow through your process. But from a strategic standpoint, I think that um, personally, like, things change so much, and there's just so
mm-hmm.
many different directions that you can go with technology. And like, again, our context is purely web development, so um, and being able to pivot and be agile with your process is like very important, I think.
Yeah. And the one piece that's maybe it's like being able to pivot effectively, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
can always just task
Yeah,
switch like whatever and
totally.
just meander through the process and
Yeah.
just sort of do what's asked of you. But if you're effective with it and you're saying, well, this is actually kind of what you're asking, so we do need to pivot, but this is how we're going to pivot in
Mm-hmm.
order to like remediate potential issues of such a big change. And
Yeah.
we've gotten positive feedback, from that one client that was changing up the process on a weekly basis, right?
That was a great example,
Like,
because like, I think people with, organizations with new products, heavily funded, operating at like the speed of light, making decisions on a whim every like week that are like huge, would be huge decisions for other organizations, but they're just moving so fast because they've got the funding, they're they've got an amazing market positioning, the potential is huge. Yeah, I mean, there's just no option. They have to be able to
no,
kind of like pivot and change like on a dime all the time, until they get to like a level of maturity where things are a bit more stable and they've kind of like built out a market share and stuff like that.
mm-hmm. And I think the last point about pivoting that we've been really effective at, in my opinion, is documentation. Like when we pivot, we make sure that deliverables are labeled as like incomplete, or they're like what their status is. They're still deliverables. They're still design artifacts that can be
Mm-hmm.
used further down the chain. It means that if you're pivoting from that and then you go and like there's 10 pivots down the line, and for some reason you come full circle back to your first direction, you still have that information to leverage, and maybe you'll be reminded of why you deviated from it to begin with.
Yeah.
So I think just us as an organization, like we're a bit insane with the level of documentation and design artifacts that we create, but it's a positive.
Mm-hmm.